Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we get to sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players and related music industry experts. If you love playing guitar, stick around. You're in the right place. Hey, this is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar, and if you're a guitar player who's looking to make some more money, then listen very closely to what I'm about to tell you. If you're a guitar player, or any other kind of musician for that matter, or if you know a musician who wants to make some more money without having to tour or go on the road, or put up with any of the other BS musicians normally have to deal with, then you need to download this new special report about how to make a small fortune by licensing your music. And by licensing music, I mean getting your music inserted into movies, television shows, and commercials. The report is less than 20 pages long, and it was written by Mike Elsner, who I interviewed in episode number 167 of this show. Mike's been doing this for over 14 years, and he's had over 2,000 songs licensed at this point in time. That means he's getting paid to license almost 150 songs per year. Now, keep in mind, most successful career musicians don't get paid for 150 songs in total over a 30 or 40-year career. Yet, Mike's getting paid for this on an annual basis. And the cool thing about this business is that you can run it from your own home studio, and you'll never have to deal with ivory tower record label executives telling you what to play and how to play it, and no shady managers or unethical business people telling you what to do either. So download Mike's free ebook on the 4-step plan to licensing success right now. Just go to everyonelovesguitar.com/Mike. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/Mike, M-I-K-E. Let me know how you like the book. And now let's get on with the show. Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garber. I've got a real exciting guitar player and an exciting person that I'm talking to now. Guitar players are people too. I'm with Sadler Vaden. Sadler's currently the electrifying guitar player in Jason Isbell's 400 unit. Prior to this, he was a hired gun in a latter-day lineup of Atlanta rock legends Drivin' and Cryin', where he was a major force in the creation of 4 EPs before leaving the band after a 2-year stint. That's a lot of production in 2 years, 4 EPs actually. He's got 2 albums out. The last one is simply called Sadler Vaden. It was produced by Grammy Award-winning producer Paul Ebersold, who's also worked with Three Doors Down and Sister Hazel. It included Audley Freed on guitar. Audley's a guitarist for Sheryl Crow, and he's also worked with the Black Crowes and I guess like basically everybody else that's kind of originated out of the South. And fellow 400 unit member Derry DeBorgia on keys. On this CD, Sadler does a lot of storytelling, particularly about the death of his dad, who passed away from alcoholism when Sadler was 18, and his mom, who lost her battle with cancer on his 21st birthday. And so as not to depress anybody, I did want to say happy birthday to Sadler because his birthday's coming up soon. He recently won a 2018 Grammy for Best Americana Album, The Nashville Sound, as part of Jason Isbell and the 400 unit. He also participated alongside Audley Freed in the house band for Founders Award 2016 ceremony honoring Joe Walsh at the Mopop Museum in Seattle. Among the people he played with were Paul Rodgers, Todd Rundgren, Dave Grohl, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and Ringo Starr. That's a pretty impressive audience. He participated in the major motion picture Tropic Thunder in 2007 as an extra. He performed in the band The Mooney Suzuki, and he won Guitarist of the Year in Best of Charleston, South Carolina awards. And he just finished producing his first album for an artist named Hannah Wicklund and the Steppin' Stones. That's Wicklund. And he's got a brand new single that is being released today. It's called Monster, and we'll be talking about that too. So lots of cool stuff going on. Man, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate your time.
Hey, Craig. Yeah, thanks for having me on here.
First of all, congratulations on the Grammy, on the new album, and on producing your first record for another artist, and all the cool things you have going on.
Thank you.
You're welcome,
Thank
man.
you.
That being said, I always say life is not for the weak, and you certainly has your fair share of challenges. And I was curious if you felt that being able to express yourself creatively through music has helped you deal with some of the pain that you've had to experience in dealing with the loss of your parents.
Yeah, I mean that was a big hill to climb at a young age, and I mean I'm aware that other folks in the universe have had tougher times, but yeah, I mean that was hard. I mean I thank God every day that I have music that, as a channel for my creativity and just for my soul, because it's one of the most therapeutic things in the world. Even it's not even really about being, a master of it or anything like that. It's just anyone, if you can pick up a guitar, sit down a piano, or hit a snare drum as hard as you can, right. It feels good. So, I mean, I have to be creative because it's something that's inside of me, and I have to get it out. And, it's, I hope people like it, but it's really for me, so it's fun. And, I try to make the best music I can make on my own, as possible. And then being a part of, bands like Driving and Crying and Jason Isbell's 400 unit, I'm there to serve, their craft and try and in some ways elevate what they're doing, but, yeah, I mean, losing my parents at a young age, thankfully I had my own band, Leslie, we were called at that point. And so, I had some, friends, and, was able to get in the van and go and play. And, the grieving process was, a few years, but, it definitely helped to be able to just jump in the van and get out there and play music, for sure.
I'm glad you had that outlet, man, because that is some heavy shit to deal with as a kid, for sure, man.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
How'd you wind up getting the gig with Driving and Crying? And I was curious what that experience was like for you, and how it might have helped you musically or otherwise.
The story of how I got that gig, it kind of goes back. I mean, I can say it started when I saw Driving and Crying when I was 10 years old. This was 1996, I believe. And I'm sorry, 97. We want to be era correct here. It was 97. It was in Raleigh, North Carolina at Walnut Creek Amphitheater, and they were opening for The Who. And my parents were huge Who fans, gigantic Who fans. And they took my sister and I to see them, and Driving and Crying was the opening band. And my dad had never heard of them. And we saw a guy, on the lawn, big amphitheater, had a Driving and Crying shirt on. My dad goes, "Hey, what do you know about this band opening?" The guy was like, "Oh man, they're amazing. They're one of the best rock bands around, And then they came out, and we loved them. And then after that, we were living in North Myrtle Beach, and we had a House of Blues there. Driving and Crying would come through. My sister and I would go. We were just huge fans, even at like 12 or 13 years old. And so that's just kind of followed the band because I was a fan. And I ended up on one of those music cruises that they do. Have you heard of these?
Yeah, they're they're extremely popular now.
Really popular, yeah. And this one was called the Gimme 3 Days Cruise, and it was a Leonard Skinner event. And I was playing with a group called the Blue Dogs, which was a big sort of like South Carolina, Southeastern regional band, like college circuit. They're rootsy, kind of jammy. Anyways, they hired me to be their guitarist for the cruise.
How old were you at the time?
I was, I guess, 18 or 19.
Okay.
Something like that. Not yet, somewhere in there, 19 or 20. I don't think I was 21 yet, if not 21, but yeah. So we had a late night set on the Lido deck, and out in the crowd, I saw Kevin Kinney, who's the leader, Driving and Crying, singer, guitar player. And I could tell he was sort of checking me out, kind of digging when I was laying down up there. And so after the show, I came off stage. I went up to him because I wanted to meet him. I'd never gotten to meet him. And he invited me to sit in with them the last night of the cruise.
Wow.
In one of the lounge shows that they had. And so I went, of course, sat in with him, had a great time. He was like, super pumped. I came and played with him. Then fast forward like a year or two later, my own band submitted to open for Driving and Crying in Chattanooga, Tennessee at a place called Rhythm and Brews. And we opened the show, didn't see any of the Driving and Crying guys yet. I'm out in the crowd during their set, and I'm rocking out. I mean, they're one of my favorite bands. And Kevin looks at me, and he kind of motions like, hey, come on, walk around the side here. Come up. And I walk around the side, and he says, come on stage. Guitar tech hands me a guitar, plugs me in, and we just lay into it, man. We just rock out on a few tunes. And so that sort of created the relationship after that night. I sort of became friends with them. I'd drive to see them and wherever they were, an hour away, or try to open for them when they were coming through Charleston. And this was 2011. And Tim, their bass player, was looking to buy a house in Charleston, and he stopped by my house to kind of ask, where some good areas, and I was saying, hey man, actually, like, I just kind of left my band, like we're sort of calling it quits. We've been doing it 7 years and wasn't where it really should have been, and I was 25, and I was like, I got to do something else, Something was telling me to do something else. And Tim goes, well, that's funny because we just fired our guitar player.
Oh, wow.
so, wow, okay. So a couple weeks go by. Tim calls me and goes, hey, man, I'm in Charleston now with the family. We're playing Asheville, North Carolina tomorrow night. Can you give me a ride to Asheville if you're not doing anything? Bring your guitar and amp, sit in with us, but, really, I need a ride. And I was like, okay, sure, bass player to one of my favorite bands. Yeah, I'll give you a ride up there. And so
how far is
we
that?
go up there. Asheville's probably 4 hours from Charleston, South Carolina.
That's a pretty big favor.
It's a pretty big favor. But, it's a get to spend time with someone in one of my favorite bands. Like,
no, I totally
cool.
Get it. That's a big favor, though, for sure.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's almost like him asking you to help you move.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. We helped me build this tree house in the back, for free.
Okay.
So we got to Asheville and I set up my stuff, and at about 2 songs in, Kevin saw me on the crowd, motioned for me to come up. And so I played the entire set with them. After the show, Kevin's like, what are you doing the rest of the week? And I go, I mean, nothing. I don't know. What's happening? He's like, well, we got about 4 shows. We're going up to Connecticut. We're playing New York City, all this stuff. Like, hey, man, I'll give you $100 a day. You want to hop in the van? We're coming back down south. We'll drop you off at your car. And I said, well, let me call my girlfriend, who's my girlfriend at the time. She's my wife now. Hi, Candace.
There you go. Shout out to Candace.
She says, yeah, sure. I don't care. That's great. And I said, okay, I'll do this under one condition, guys. We have to go to Walmart so I can get some underwear and socks because I didn't have any. I just thought I was going up for the night. So I didn't have any, clothing or anything. And so that led to me being in Driving and Crying for 2 years.
Very cool.
So that was it. Yeah.
So
I'm thankful I drove Tim up to Asheville for the gig.
What did you get out of that experience in playing with them for 2 years? Like either musically or learning entertainment wise, or what was some of the biggest things you got?
I think the biggest thing I got was being just a full on rock and roll sideman guitarist, lead guitarist, because in my band we were a 3-piece, so there wasn't another guitar player, but I was the singer and I was writing the songs, putting on the show. And so with Driving and Crying, I don't know, there's maybe 200 songs or something. I mean, there's 30 years worth of music, great music. And they'd go on stage without a set list every night. And it really is that thing where you have to follow Kevin, because he's he's kind of that rock and roll troubadour type guy where he, on a dime, he'll go into something, or he'll do some sort of, beat poet kind of freestyle thing. And, you just got to follow him. So I really learned to just, it was like if my old band was high school, Driving and Crying was college. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's where I really got my studies completed. So I mean, I got a lot out of it. Just being around a writer like Kevin and following him, and then he'd cut me loose and yeah, I don't know, I just got better. It was a maturing thing for sure.
Well, and I think that thing you said, getting to be a full-on rock and roll guitarist, there are not that many slots where that's available anymore.
I do feel fortunate that I've gotten to fill a few slots like that. Yeah, it's a kind of a coveted position nowadays. It's it's like boutique-y, It's sort of, you do what?
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't exist. I saw, Little River Band. You ever heard of them?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I saw them this weekend, and I knew the lead guitarist Rich, and he's a Nashville guy, and he gets to go out and be a rock and roll guitarist. That's the thing. That's what I told him. I said, "Man, what a great gig!" No, it's just that not a lot of that around. So
there's not much of it around.
No. So what prompted you to leave Driving and Crying, and the same thing with 400 Unit? How did you get the gig with that?
Well, that was a really tough decision to make because I was really happy doing Driving and Crying, and those guys were so good to me. I started, let me back up. I started becoming friends with Jason Isbell's keyboardist, Derry DeBorja. Mm-hmm. And, I had opened for Jason before with my old band, Leslie.
Okay.
So there was rapport there. Mm-hmm. We were on that Southeastern circuit, and Jason and the guys respected what we did. And Derry moved to Nashville. So I moved to Nashville in 2011, right as I joined Driving and Crying, and became friends with Derry. Derry introduced me to Tracy Thomas, who's Jason's manager. Mm-hmm. And I just sort of became friendly with them and just hanging out, not trying to get into the band or anything like that, just making some music and having a good time. And one night I was leaving a gig with Driving and Crying, and Tracy called me. It's Jason's manager, and she goes, "Hey, I heard you want to be in our band." And I was like, "Which one?" She goes, "The 400 Unit. Jason is one 400 Unit." I was like, "Really? I mean, what's going on?" Well, Jason just made a record. It was called Southeastern. This was 2013. He had just got out of rehab, I think 8 months prior to recording Southeastern, somewhere in there. And this was kind of his, not comeback album, but it was like his, I'm sober now, this is my new record. The 400 Unit name isn't attached. It's just Jason Isbell. Ryan Adams was supposed to do it, and something happened, so Dave Kopp picked it up, and, Jason at that time wasn't using a secondary guitarist in the band. He made this record, a lot of acoustic, acoustic mixed with like electric stuff too. So he really needed someone else to go out and tour to the album. To have, if he's playing acoustic, he's got to have someone else doing
sure
slide or whatever else. So I said, well, I mean, maybe let's get up and talk. So I went over to Jason's house, and it was kind of funny because it was almost like it was understood I was joining the band, and I wasn't so sure yet, but it just kind of felt like, yeah, this is good. Like
they had assumed it was a
I
done
got to
deal.
Jason's house. Here's a stack of CDs. Learn these songs. We right there, the first meeting, we got acoustics out, and he's playing me like stuff to play on the new songs on this newest album and stuff. And so I told Driving and Crying I was going to go and do some shows just to feel it out or whatever. And, they were supportive. I mean, they were a little, okay, just go do some shows and then come back or whatever. So I went out and did it, and it just felt like something I needed to do. And I had been working already, I'm 25 at this point. I'm just kind of ready to see something go,
Right.
And I just felt like I needed to do this. And, Driving and Crying, they're still relevant and they're still one of the best bands out there. But, there was a time where they saw it go,
Yes.
and I was ready to see that for myself, So
Totally get it.
I just said, I gotta do this. This just seems right. This is something that's really growing here. I just made the move. And so I've been doing it ever since. So that's how we kind of fell in. I fell into it.
And I'm assuming, what is the biggest difference? Like, these guys are probably playing, or you guys are probably playing a little bigger gigs and, working on a little bigger budget. What are the benefits of that to you? I don't mean like money wise. I mean like experience wise and just fun wise.
Well, it's very fun, and I'd have to say the biggest difference really is just it's the most comfortable way you can really tour. We have buses and money for food each day and dressing rooms and water and chips and salsa. We don't have to ride in a van 6 hours and then load our own gear. And so it's like the real thing, you get to that sort of I feel like most musicians would be lying if they said they never wanted to get to that point, so
you'd be 100% right.
Yeah. You can tell yourself that doesn't matter all you want, but when you start to experience that, you're kind of like, oh, this is nice, man. Hey, I'm not as tired as I was,
Yeah.
Wow, my back feels a lot better today than it used to.
Sure.
So I think that's the biggest difference. And I don't, there's something to be said now that we're at this point where we walk out and there's a theater full of people and the lights go down and they all cheer. They're there to see you. And so it makes you want to play better, it makes you want to move around more and put on more of a show, and which I've always been an active player anyway. But I think that's the biggest difference. We're not all crammed into a van with a trailer, with no road crew, with not having a bathroom in the whatever dressing room or whatever it is,
Sure.
So it's nice. It's nice.
I'm glad you've worked hard, man. So I'm glad you're getting to experience this. And I think you brought up a really interesting point. The big difference when someone's paying specifically to see you versus they're going to the venue and you happen to be there.
Right.
Yeah, and I would imagine that gives you some more sense of accountability as well. Like, those are your customers. They've paid for your, they've paid your salary for the night. So now you want to work harder, as you mentioned, to perform for them, to give them their money's worth.
Yeah, you want to put on a real show, and we have tons of lights and there's haze and, the sound is great and everything. And so, everything is laid out all day for us to be able to go on and play. But because there's so many people involved, making sure that it's going to be right, like you need to be right.
Yeah. Totally get
it. Yeah.
Where'd you originally grow up?
So I was born in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents moved us to North Myrtle Beach. And when I was about, I want to say like 11 or 12, we moved to Summerville, South Carolina, which is outside of Charleston. That's where I finished up middle school, went to high school, didn't go to college, started a band instead. And so Charleston is where I lived for 13 years.
Gotcha. And I'm almost afraid to ask, what was your childhood like? I don't want to open up a can of worms, but what was growing up like for you?
Growing up was actually, I mean, really good because my parents were so loving, you know. Now they like to have fun, but you know, we never lived in, you know, big houses or anything like that. We were always like on rental properties and stuff like that. But my sister and I never knew that we weren't in the Taj Mahal. You know what I'm saying? We had everything we needed, and my parents were good at sort of making a lot out of not much at all. Sure. You know, so they were just like working class, good people who like to party, like to have fun. You know, put on a record, make a drink, have people over. You know, my dad loved to cook. My mom was a server, and she also would clean, you know, the rental condos down in North Myrtle Beach and clean houses. And, you know, they didn't have, I think my dad had more drive to, you know, become something. But my mom was sort of like, you know, it's okay. You know, we're just, you know, just living life. You know what I mean? She just was real easygoing. And obviously they were always concerned about supporting us, of course. But, I mean, you know, my childhood was good. You know, we lived a block from the ocean in a little townhouse.
Cool.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I could walk down to the arcades. I could walk down to where, you know, where they invented the shag, you know, and go to the arcade and go to the beach and have a milkshake and, you know, or a lemon quench and go to school.
Lemon quench. That's funny, man.
We had the lemon quench girls down on the beach ringing their bell, pushing the cart every summer. So yeah, I mean, you know, looking back at my childhood was really good. You know, people say, you grew up in North Myrtle Beach, man. I was like, yeah, well, where'd you grow up? You know,
I hear you.
I grew up on the beach. So
well,
it was
I
nice.
won't argue with you. I grew up in the Bronx. I certainly won't argue with you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Where'd you grow up? I grew up in the hard streets of North Myrtle Beach.
I would have traded you in a second.
You know, one thing about my childhood though was the transient nature of the town I lived in. So
yeah,
you know, that was weird, and I touch on that on a song on my album, my self-titled album. There's a song called Greta, and it kind of is. It's a fictional character, but it's loosely based on characters, you know, I'd come across. So it's like my most character-driven song I've ever written, and I'm proud of that tune. And yeah, it's just weird because growing up in a place like that, you know, when you're 6 or whatever, the people will come in from Ohio or wherever else, come in for the summer. You know, they'd be living right next door to you, and you develop these, you know, pretty close relationships with these people. And then next thing you know, they're gone the next day without a goodbye or anything like that. So as a kid, that was just strange.
Yeah.
So that was, you know, that was like, if I had to like kind of, you know, remove the gloss off my childhood, that was like some weird stuff there. And just a lot of people in that area just seemed like they never had it together, you know, who did live there. So I was joking, you know, the mean streets of North Myrtle Beach, but there was a lot of bad influence in a place like that, you know? So,
well, yeah. It's because it's a place where people go to party and have fun. That's the target destination. You know, it's like living on Fort Lauderdale Beach or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They go to the party and people move there so that they can maintain that lifestyle. Yeah. You know, it all starts out when you're visiting, and then it turns into, oh, I want to keep this going, so I want to move there. You know.
How did you?
A lot of golf A lot of golf around those parts, you know.
Are you a
Mini
golfer?
golf? No, I'm not.
Did your sister wind up getting involved in music? Or
My sister did not, but she's a huge music fan. She's like my concert buddy. You know, she loves music.
She's still up there?
She's in Nashville.
Oh,
where I am
that's
now.
great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really
Yeah.
good, man. That's nice.
Yeah.
So how did you get
For
involved
sure.
in guitar?
So my dad had a Yamaha FG 180 red label acoustic in the closet, and I would hear him from time to time pick around on it, but I never really showed any interest until there's a concert called Farm Aid.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're aware of it.
Yeah.
And it was coming to Columbia, South Carolina in 1996. And only because Hootie and the Blowfish was the biggest band in the world at the time. So Farm Aid asked Hootie to play, and they said, we'll play under one condition: you have it in Columbia, South Carolina. That's how big they were at the time. They could literally have, you know, Willie Nelson and Neil Young and all these guys move their thing to South Carolina. So my parents took us to Farm Aid, and I saw, everyone, it seems like, that day. Sun Volt, Steve Earle, Tim McGraw, the Beach Boys, Martina McBride, Rusted Root, John Mellencamp, Hootie and the Blowfish, Neil Young and the Crazy Horse, Willie Nelson. I mean, that's a lot to take in as a 10-year-old kid. And Neil Young and the Crazy Horse had the most effect on me. So when we got home, my dad pulled his guitar out because he was inspired, right? So he pulled the guitar out of the closet, playing around in the bedroom. I'm opening the door like, oh, Dad's got the guitar out. So I go in there, and he's, you know, trying to figure out, hey, my, you know. So he started he would, you know, he wasn't much of a player, but he could kind of figure out little things, like he could figure out like Here Comes the Sun, or, you know, little things like that. So I just fucking fell in love with it. I mean, I just was addicted to trying to figure it out. That one thing, and I would spend weeks on trying to down. And I mean, every day at school, man, I mean, it just was an obsession. I could not wait to get home and pull that acoustic out. And then that's really when I started. I was 10. And I never had any lessons. I just kept going. The closest thing I ever had to a lesson was down the street. There's a guy named John Edwards who had taken guitar lessons, but he had figured out how to read tab. Okay. So I would go over there, and he would, you know, he's like, hey, yeah, Stairway to Heaven. You know, he kind of showed me, and I picked that up, and then he showed me how to read tab. And so from there on, I would get guitar magazines and the books and everything like that. You know, the Hendrix Experience, tab, all that stuff. So I took it from there, man. I just dove right in, you know.
Did you play like non-stop, like to the point where you're up all night playing and missing school?
Obsessed. I would play the guitar before I took a piss in the morning.
Awesome, man. I was curious, outside of any stuff with your parents, what were some of the biggest obstacles, or what are some of the bigger obstacles you've had to overcome during this period of time?
I mean, you know, really them passing away and sort of, you know, not leaving anything was a big obstacle. And
Holy shit, I didn't even think about that. So you, like, financially, you mean you had to like all of a sudden
nothing.
You're a kid and you got to like pay rent.
Yeah, or live with your bass player's parents, you know? I mean, there was no house, there was no money or anything. So I think the biggest obstacle I had to climb was making the decision, you know, to keep keep playing music, which, you know, most people would be like, oh, music thing, man. Like, that's, you know, you got to get a job, you know? And it wasn't necessarily an obstacle, but I just wouldn't say, I never walked around going, man, I'm destined to do this. You know, it's just like, I knew I was good at it. You know, I knew that I had a talent and I wasn't going to stop doing it. I was going to somehow make everything work by playing. And I always have, and it's gotten me, you know, here now. So I just never gave up. But I can't think of really another obstacle, you know?
Well, that's a pretty fucking big one. that
yeah,
makes up to like that's good for like 5 or 6 small ones. But I want everybody to really acknowledge everybody listening to this, because that's some pretty difficult stuff to go through. And the fact that you actively made a decision to keep playing music, I think says a lot about your commitment to your craft, because it would have been a really easy time. You had every excuse in the world to say, man, I can't do this. I got to work now. I got to pay rent. I got to man up. I got to be an adult. And you didn't say that. That didn't sound like it even entered your mind, actually.
No, man, it didn't. Because, you know, aside from being a guitarist, I'm kind of a rock and roller too, to be honest. I mean, rock and roll, you know, there is the rebellion part, you know. There is the, you know, the non-status quo part of it. But I realized that it liberated me from all my issues when dealing with my parents and not having anything. Like, I mean, let me tell you, man, when my dad was ill and my mom had cancer, I mean, we were on, you know, we were able to make ends meet, but, you know, I'm talking food stamps. I'm talking a house provided by the church. Mm-hmm. I'm talking schools providing Thanksgiving meals. You know, we were poor.
Sure.
Just gonna go ahead and say it.
Yeah.
You know,
well, there's no shame in it.
There's no shame in it at all. I mean, we made it work, man. I mean, the family of 4, we lived in like a 450 square foot house for 2 years that, you know, was the church had given us to live in. And so playing music, playing rock and roll specifically, was liberating, you know. And when they passed on, it was kind of all I had.
Man, I have a lot of respect for you for getting through that and not losing your shit.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, looking back and go, man, I was fearless.
That's great.
Apparently, but if it happened to me now, I don't know.
Well,
no,
no, you do the same thing once you have that. You have that experience. You don't have, you know, I have this thing on my wall. It says there's only 3 reasons you will not be successful. Number 1, you don't try new things. Number 2, you don't learn from what you try. And number 3, you give up. So giving up is not an option. And usually when giving up is not an option, that's usually the way you are. It's not like later it becomes an option for the most part.
Right.
So you know, you'll just, and hey, I hate to say this, but you'll probably have some more fucked up shit to deal with in life. We all do, you know?
Yeah.
So, and you'll be fine. One thing, growing up in that situation where you had such little control over, like you were living in this house that someone gave you and doing this that someone else provided you, did that make you more independent now to say, like, you know, I never want to be in that situation, and, you know, I'd always like to have a little more influence on my own destiny?
It made me want, I don't have children yet, but it made me not ever want to do that again. But I'm also glad that I saw it, because if it did ever happen again, you'd be all right.
Yeah, you'd totally be all right. But
it'll be okay.
Yeah.
But I don't, when I do have children, I don't want them to ever have to go through that.
Sure.
you know?
Yeah, I totally get that. I grew up in a pretty horrible environment, and I made sure I had the same thoughts of, my kids are going to have a little different environment. So I totally get that. And they did.
Good.
And now I'm almost done. I have only one left at home. I'm on the 10-yard line. She'll be 18 next month.
Empty nest is coming.
Oh, it's great. I get along great with my wife, man. We're very
good.
Lucky. Yeah, we've worked real hard. What are you looking forward to in the future, either musically, business-wise, personally?
I'm looking forward to having kids. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing, what else this band can accomplish that I'm in. I'm looking forward to, seeing some different places in the world with my wife. She likes to go on adventures, and I look forward to how I'm going to mature as a songwriter and musician, like how my music's going to evolve.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things to look forward to right now. It feels good.
Good.
For a while I didn't know. All I had was forward. all anyone had, all we do have is forward. But I guess what I'm excited about the most, to looking forward is all that stuff I just mentioned. So
yeah, that's all good stuff, man. I'm real glad for you. How long have you been with your wife? You sound like you've been with her a long time.
We've been together. Let's see here. We've been together like 9 years, and we've been married for 2 years. So we've been together a long time.
Good. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Let's talk about gear for a few minutes.
Yeah.
What's your go-to guitar right now, and let's say what other 2 or 3 guitars round out your top list?
So I play about 6 guitars live with Jason.
Awesome.
So in terms of that live show, I can't just have one go-to, but my go-to pretty much, currently my go-to is my Rickenbacker 12-string because I just fucking love playing that thing.
Wow.
And it inspires different things out of you riff-wise or just song-wise. You pick it up, you feel like a different character, just... So that's lately been my go-to, but my number one always is my Gibson SG. It's like a 2005. I forget what they call it. It's like a remember they were doing like sweet tea, or whatever. It's got that brown.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's 2 pickups with the 57s.
So it did have those, but I put Seymour Duncan's in that guitar because I like the sound of Duncan's in an SG, and the neck is the 59 Duncan, and then the bridge is the Pearly Gates.
Man, everybody I know loves that Pearly Gates.
Yeah, I like it in the SG, especially on the middle position with the volume knob rolled off the neck. Pick up the Pearly Gates, man. Oh, it sounds so good.
I have an SG. It's one of my favorite guitars to play. I'm not a big guy. I mean, I'm kind of broad, but I don't have big hands or anything. So it's got a real slim neck, and I love it.
Yeah,
really love it.
It's light.
Very, very light. Feels great. And everything is so accessible.
Yeah, to me, it's right behind the Telecaster as far as just versatile, and it's got the, playing slide and get up, get way up on the fretboard if you need to, way up the neck. It's just light and great. I love it. I love the SG.
So you got the Rickenbacker 12-string, the Gibson SG. What would be the next one?
I have a Fender Tele Custom, and I believe it was made in 2007, and I got Lindy Fralin pickups in that.
Very cool.
And I love that guitar too. And I got the split rail pickup in the bridge made by Fralin. I have the wide range pickup wound by Lindy in the neck. And that's a great sounding guitar. I play a lot of Tele live in Jason's. band. So
very cool, man. And what are you playing out of amp wise for the most part?
I have 2 amps I play through live. I have a Third Power British Dream 112 that is unbelievable. It's a great amp, and if you're like me and you love British rock, this is the amp. So one channel is based on a Vox 59 AC.
Wow.
And the second channel is a 68 Marshall Plexi. So I switch between the two live.
I interviewed Jamie a very long time ago.
Yeah.
From Third Power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I have a Vox hand-wired AC30 with blues in it, blue speakers, and I think it's the Alnico Blues, and that thing sounds good too. And that really is it's like moral support over there. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's there, sounds great. It's got that Vox chime going on, and I run my modulation, like my Leslie tremolo and pitch vibrato effects and stuff, stereo through it, so give a nice big fat sound, wide sound.
How does that amp sound different from the Third Power? Because that's a very British amp too, the Vox.
Yeah, one thing is just like it just has the chime, and the Vox and the Third Power. The Vox channel on the Third Power has the chime too, but something about like just a Vox amp, it just does that thing. And the hand wireds especially, I love. So yeah, it just has a little more of that brilliant chime. So
gotcha. Yeah. Are there any cool stories behind how you've acquired any of your guitars?
Let me think here. Let me think. Well, I did have a long while ago when I had my own band. We had our trailer broken into, so I had a bunch of guitars stolen. So the Telly and the Gibson SG were gifted to me by my friend Paul Ebersold. So
wow,
that was a nice.
That's a sweet gift.
Thing for me. I've had people like that around, to help me keep my thing going, keep it out there. So
that's really cool.
I've had good friends help out.
Well, man, you're a survivor, and I think you're the kind of person people would want to help out. You don't come across as someone who takes things for granted or is, expecting anything. So I think you're an easy guy to help out. You're a likable guy like that,
Yeah, well, I hope so. I mean, I'm just being myself, but I think having struggles, but persevering and being resilient, I think, people, I've had my life, have wanted to help because they know I'm not just going to piss everything away. So
absolutely. Who's influenced your playing that people might be surprised to hear?
Frank Zappa.
Wow.
Yeah. And I know it may not necessarily show, but I just love Frank Zappa. I'm a huge Zappa fan. I think all the other ones are obvious, Jimmy Page, Pete Townsend, Keith Richards, which is really, Mike Campbell. But but it's like all those cats. Of course, Hendrix, I love Albert King as well. And the blues thing. I mean, I love blues. It's hard to pick with like one blues cat that's like my favorite, but, yeah, I think people would be surprised to hear that I love Zappa.
That is a surprise. I saw Zappa's Dweezil. He was down here, I guess about 2-3 years ago, and he played like he actually was playing the Zappa album I own, which is pretty cool because Zappa's kind of hard. You have to vibe with certain of his records. It's kind of hard to follow, and I was lucky he played the whole album. Yeah, it was a great show, man. Really cool show.
Oh my god, yeah, Dweezil doing all that. Oh man, I've seen that. I saw it when it was Zappa Plays Zappa, but man, so good.
Great show, man. What would be your top 3 desert island discs, man? Like as far as in no particular order, and knowing that this could change tomorrow. Like today, what would be the top 3 desert island discs?
Fuck. Oh jeez. I mean, I know I've had this question for like 2 days, but desert island disc. Okay. Oh God, so hard, man. I mean, Who's Next? Probably.
Great
would be
record.
Like number 1. Probably that'd be like number 1. Or I guess you said no particular order. Okay,
yeah,
so
no
Who's
particular.
Next?
Even the cover of that album was great, man.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Rolling Stones, Goat's Head Soup.
Another one. Dude, you sure you're only 31?
Man, probably have to go with something from the Heartbreakers because probably just Tom Petty's first album I love so much from top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say that those would be
Great
I'd be
albums.
okay with just having those 3 would get me through my life as a desert island.
Only got to be get you through
citizen.
today. So it could change. Only for today.
Yeah, that'd be it. Yeah.
What's something that you learned about yourself along this journey of life that you've been on?
I've learned about myself. I think I've learned that I need to be okay with things, not working out how you plan or think things are going to go. And I've learned that I think I've learned about myself is that sometimes I'm not okay with that, but as I've gotten a little older, I'm still a young man, but in my 20s, I think I had a lot of frustration, a lot of anger because of everything that happened. And I learned that I can sometimes get frustrated and upset, and I've learned how to deal with those and cope with those things. As far as like, I always thought like that my success would come from me being like the guy or whatever it is. And like, the thing is like, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. And I've also learned that I'm not a good multitasker.
That's a pretty mature statement.
Just one thing at a time. I can do that. I can do that really well, one thing at a time. But trying to do too many things, I can't do it.
Man, let me just say this, and not to play therapist here, but I think you had every right to be angry because that was a shitty, couple of shitty cards that you got dealt. And so I think that was totally appropriate for you to be angry. And I think it was totally appropriate for it to take a good long while to not be angry for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, for sure. And, thing is, it's okay. It's okay to be upset, I think I just, because of those things that happened, I just thought like, well, this is how it's going to go, and it's going to go this, and if it's not this way, then it's messed up, and I've learned the question was what I've learned about myself, and I've learned about myself through the years that, that's what would make me frustrated is when things wouldn't, it's not like things are going my way, but things wouldn't go the way I,
expectations.
Expected them to go,
Yeah.
So I learned to deal with that in a better way.
That's a good lesson to learn before you have kids, because I learned, not that I'm like disappointed in my kids or anything, but you just learn, you have certain expectations of the way things are going to go. They don't go that way. And I was really glad I realized that, you know what, I have no right to have expectations of them or anybody else. And, it is what it is. All I could do is expect things out of me. So I think that's a good lesson to learn. It sounds like you learned it a lot younger than I did. Tell me something about yourself people would either be surprised to hear about or might find a little odd.
I like the show The Bachelor.
That is a little odd. Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. I wasn't expecting that. That is a good answer.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, very surprised. I like The Bachelor. That was awesome.
I think it's great TV. I just, I need something, and it's funny you say because I don't have kids, but I need something that just doesn't require any mental capacity or anything.
I hear you.
And it's just like a human study too, man. I mean, I know it's edited a lot, but I don't know. I enjoy it. I don't care. I don't care what people think about
Good
that.
for you. I like The Bachelor. You say it loud and say it proud, man. That's totally cool. That's a great answer, though, man.
I like Howard Stern, and I've been a fan for, I can't say like I've been a fan for a long time. I'm only 31. There's people out there that's like, you missed the good days when he was on, whatever, K-Rock, whatever. Anyways, I don't care. I like Howard Stern now. But when Howard was, he watches The Bachelor, or he did, and I was like, man, if Howard's watching The Bachelor, I don't agree with every single thing he, likes music-wise or film, TV-wise, but I was like, well, Howard's watching The Bachelor. I should check this out. And then I got my wife on it, and then so now I've gotten other friends, into it, and it becomes more of a hang factor.
Yep, gotcha.
Let's hang out with people, watch this show, let's laugh, let's have some beers. It's just a fun thing,
Totally gotcha.
I'm not sitting there watching The Bachelor alone. I've never done that. But
I don't judge. It's okay, man.
Yeah. It's best to be enjoyed with friends, I think.
My wife watches that, and I give her shit about it all the time. So.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to check it out, Craig.
And she says the same thing, though. She goes, look, I don't have to think. It's entertaining, It's the exact same stuff you said, so I'm the one in the dark, obviously.
Yeah. You get hip, man. Get hip to it.
I know. Does it come on 8-track? No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Do you have a non-musical superpower?
A non-musical superpower. Non-musical superpower. Let's see. Wouldn't be anything cooking wise, although I can cook okay. I think so I have it's not really a superpower, but I have a lot of things that have happened to me that they're just and people have these things happen to them, but they're just more than coincidences, Mm-hmm. So I think I have a little bit of the clairvoyance,
That's cool.
So, and I've had many friends, say that to me, and my wife just all the time. She's like, "What, that stuff? Things just happen to you like that, And I take it as I'm on the path I'm supposed to be on.
Like what? Because I have stuff like that too. It's weird shit happens like that to me. Like what if you can think of any?
So just here example. This is really I'm sort of always calling people and they're like, dude, I was just talking about you. That happens all the time. I'm talking all the time. And I've also had things happen like Tim Nielsen from Driving and Crying was going through his memorabilia, and the only sticky pass he found from the Who tour they did was the show I was at.
Oh, wow.
And he gave it to me as a gift.
Oh, that's really cool.
And I just don't think that's coincidence. I'm sorry. I don't. Why would that be the one? Out of all the shows they played, I'm in the crowd 10 years old. They have no idea I'm going to be in the band in 15 years.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
I don't know if it's a superpower, but I think I'm on the universe path. And other than that, I can't really think of.
No, that's a superpower. I would qualify that as a superpower for sure.
Good.
As I am the official maintainer of the superpower, so I think you're qualified. Yeah. No, that's kind of cool. I have weird shit like that happen to me too. So I dig what you're saying totally. If it happens once, it's not a big deal. But if it happens repeatedly and consistently, you got to like have some question mark about what's going on.
I think that's where I'm getting at. Is that I'm not saying, man, things happen to me. Cool things happen all the time to me. It's not that. It's just I don't know, but I'm just telling you it does. I mean, I've almost had too many of them to really even go into it. But yeah, that's the closest thing I can think to any sort of superpower things orbiting around.
You know what happened to me one time? This is weird. I never go to the Publix, and I went grocery shopping, and I loaded all the groceries in the back of the truck. And I don't think I had pockets in my shorts. It was a long time ago when they had shorts with no pockets. And I put my wallet on the edge of the bumper, and I forgot to pick it up. And I drove home, and it was still there. That's pretty weird. Why? I mean, there's no reason why that wallet would.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So so that's the kind of stuff. If you're talking about that, I got stuff like that too. It's really weird. It made no sense.
This one time I was sitting on my couch and I was digging through all my old band's CD archives, and I'm literally, they're just like Leslie Disc 1, Leslie Disc 2, Leslie Disc 3, Mm-hmm. And I had to listen to all of them and mark down the tracks in a notebook. And I get this random. So I'm listening, and I get to. We did a cover of My Generation by The Who for a Nike commercial. Never panned out, but anyway, get to that, marking it down. I'm playing and driving and crying currently. I get this call from an LA number, and I'm like, what is it? This could be really great or really bad.
Right.
So I call and it's like, yeah, is Vaden there? I go, this is Sadler Vaden. He's like, oh, hey, man. Yeah, this is Kevin Martin from Candlebox. And I go, hey, man. What? Yeah. Fast forward, like, I don't know, 4 years previous, he was coming through Charleston with this band called The Gracious Few. It was like a Candlebox mixed with live, the band live, mm-hmm. sort of offshoot, I hung out with him that night. We had a really good time. I guess we exchanged numbers. I'm talking years go by, 4 years or so. He's like, yeah, man, I'm in the supermarket down the street from my house, and I just saw this guy like in the checkout line. He just looked just like you, and I just started thinking about what you were up to, and just thought I'd give you a call. And I'm like,
oh, that's pretty random.
Well, thanks, man. I'm playing. He's like, who you playing with? I was like, I'm playing in Driving and Crying. He's like, Driving and Crying, dude, that's awesome. Because they go back, in the 90s and everything. And I'm listening to the track that my band did of The Who, which Driving and Crying opened for, and just too many things going on. It's just fucking strange.
That is wild.
That's just strange.
Just getting a call from this guy is pretty random like that.
That's random, yeah.
And then he saw a guy in the supermarket across the country that looked like you.
I'm talking years later, man. We only hung out for maybe an hour.
Wow.
I don't know, how that, obviously the guy's, he just had a thing for faces or something, but.
That's wild. Wow. What would you think your biggest business or personal win has been?
Biggest business or personal win? I think personal win is marrying my my wife, because she's just the best, man. She met me when, there was just nothing except for just me, and she's stuck with me. So personally, that's the biggest win, for me. And then, business win probably was making the move to Nashville. Because for me, business wise, everything just went up from there,
What was the behind that move? What made you do that?
I just realized when I had my band and it wasn't going anywhere, I just was like, well, how do I make money? And I go, how do I make money? And I go, I make money playing guitar. People pay me to play guitar. I'm going to go play guitar. So where do you go when you live in the South? Nashville. So I moved. But right before I moved, I joined Driving and Crying. So I was able to move there and have a gig under my belt, which is big.
Yeah,
when
huge.
you do a town like that, So.
And you thought all that stuff through on your own, or did you have any advising you or like mentors?
I had people, I'd call upon my friends but yeah, ultimately, who's got to make that decision for you? You do.
Yes. Well, that's because that's a big decision. That's why I asked, and it's, I'm glad you did it, obviously, and it's worked out well for you.
Guess who I just got a text from?
The guy from Candlebox.
Jamie Scott.
Oh, that's so funny. That's hilarious. That is really funny. See, that's another one of those things. We're just talking about him. What's the likelihood of that?
Not real likely. I haven't talked to it's Delana now. Jamie's transitioned, so I haven't talked to her in a while. So, but yeah, man. Then move to Nashville was the big. That was the business win for sure.
Cool. Any hobbies or interests outside of music?
Man, no, not really. The music thing turns into my hobby too, because I like to, like with my own thing, I like to try and make my own videos and things like that kind of turn into a hobby, or recording, things like that, people say, yeah, man, you need a hobby. It's like, dude, no, I don't. I play music. Cooking's probably a hobby. I like to cook. Try to get better at that.
I think that's pretty. That's not that uncommon, especially for younger musicians, because it is your hobby. It's something that started out as your hobby. Now it's your career. Yeah,
and I think if you want it to become your career, and then if it can remain a hobby as well, it's kind of like the best of both worlds.
No, I totally get that, man. Who's had the biggest influence on your life?
Who did I know personally, or?
Yeah, like who's been most influential on you?
Probably, he wouldn't believe this, but probably Audley Freed, man. To be honest with you, I've kind of called that guy at every sort of road or like little crossroads, ever since moving to Nashville, I've called him.
Why do you think he wouldn't believe it?
Because he wouldn't want to, accept that he's that important to me.
Right.
Probably.
I mean, from a humility.
From a humility standpoint.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, because he's like the most humble human I think I've ever come across.
That's awesome.
But yeah, man. Ever since I moved to Nashville, became, good buds with him, and he's a friend, but I see him as a mentor as well, and He's just always had the best advice.
That's awesome.
Or, from his point of view.
Sure.
But it's always kind of been the right advice.
That's great, man.
And he's someone I really look up to.
Do you know Mark Chatfield by any chance?
No, I don't.
Okay. I was just curious. He's buddies with Audley, and they were at NAMM together recently. So.
Oh, cool.
Last question, man, and I really appreciate your time and your patience. And we scheduled this a long time ago, and I'm really glad that we get to hook up. I can't tell you that how much respect I have for you, man, because you've weathered a lot, and like I said, you really have your shit together for a guy your age, having to do all this stuff on your own. So,
thanks, Craig.
Yeah, and I'm not just blowing smoke. I'm not that guy. So, I want to talk about your single, but before that, one last question. What do you think's been the biggest change in your personality over the last 5 years, and how much of this change has been deliberate on your part, and how much was just a natural part of aging?
I think the biggest change would be, like I said earlier, sort of just being happy with where you're at, with being happy with where I'm at in my life. I think, the pitfall sometimes of being a young musician, especially like in rock and roll and stuff, you have all your heroes and you compare, you go, well, I got to be at this point in my career by the time I'm this age.
Right.
And you can't do that, because everybody's path is different. And I think, part of that is getting older, and you just kind of you mature and you go, hey, man, whatever, it's good. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm playing, I'm breathing. But then it, half of that was just getting older, and half of it was me deliberately being like, dude, you got to be okay with like where you're at. Look at all the fortune and just, the fortune of, the fortune consisting of like the good humans I've come across, and, just I've had blessings, and it's not really luck, it's like, I'm the one that decided to drive Tim to Asheville. I'm the one that decided to, stop my band and do something else. I'm the one that got the U-Haul and went to Nashville with my girlfriend. It's like, it's some of it's like timing, but it's less luck really, and more I made those decisions myself.
And you took action.
I took action. I could have easily not taken action. But yeah, that'd be the biggest change for sure is just being okay, man. Being okay, being happy with where life is at.
That's awesome.
So no matter what,
Well, man, I'm really happy for you, and really happy where things are going for you. And I'd love to have you back in like 2 or 3 years to see what the next chapter unfolds and looks like for you, man, because
I'd love that.
You're a great player, and I think you've been through the tougher part of your life already, and I think you're going to have a ton of good shit ahead of you. But
thanks a lot, Craig. Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to talk about your single. It's coming out today. It's called Monster, and where can people find it? And you want to talk about the backstory about it, or anything you want to discuss about it?
Yeah, so Monster is going to be available on iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music. It's going to be on Pandora, Tidal, all the streaming services. It's going to be available for download and purchase on my website, sadlervaden.bandcamp.com. And the backstory is before the election in 2016, I was watching debates, and I think I said to myself, watching all these politicians, I just was like, what? They're all monsters, In some ways, they're all monsters. And I just took that line. I said, man, what a monster. So the song didn't end up being about necessarily politicians, but it just sort of deals with political monsters, religious monsters, the people that are out there that you know, that what they're after isn't good, you know. So it kind of deals with sort of the world we're living in. You know, you have all these, you know, people who are they're out for themselves. They don't care about, you know, the future of this country necessarily, or the well-being of others, or the climate, or, you know, you have all these school shootings and, you know, everything happening in the world. So it's sort of a take on that. And it's just kind of saying, like, what a monster, you know? I mean, that's what it is. And I recorded it. It's kind of a monster of a track because I recorded it in my house and then took it in the studio and added some things and spread it over a console. And, you know, so it's a kind of a Frankenstein thing. But, you know, I've had it on the back burner for a while and decided to finally record it. And it's, I would say it's got a little Joe Walsh, John Lennon influence, rockin' song. It's not preachy, you know, it's just sort of stating some, you know, some facts on how things are out there right now. So
you feel good about it?
I feel great about it, man. I love it. Yeah. It's a cool track.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Everybody check it out. It's called Monster. It's by Sadler Vaden, and it's at sadlervaden.bandcamp.com. Let me spell Sadler's name. SADLERVADEN.bandcamp.com. Or you could find it on iTunes, Amazon, all the places where it streams. But buy it from him. Send him money. He deserves it. And you do. And you can find Sadler on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and at your local 7-Eleven.
I'll be there getting the slushy. Come see me.
Getting a lemon quench.
lemon quench.
Man, listen, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, man. You're a super cool guy, and I will have you on here again because I do think big things are in store for you, Mr.
Thanks,
Vaden.
Craig.
You're welcome. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Thank you to Sadler Vaden for sharing all his stories with us, for opening up and letting us into his personal life and letting us know what's going on. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Go to everyonelovesguitar.com, sign up to get notified of future episodes, along with new stuff and product discounts. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice. So be nice, go play your guitar, and have some fun. Till next time, peace and love, and I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.